when they feel that what is being done or tried, it makes no sense or it doesn't lead us to any more productive and beneficial value than what we have now.
Well, I think so. I mean, certainly people can do more things in the United States. I'm sure you're familiar. They had these things called the tea parties where the people were out protesting and having rallies. But for me, I almost don't want to go down the road of how do we get the politicians to see things from our point of view. I try to focus more on educating regular people, so at least, if I can change their minds, at least have more people thinking, realizing what the dangers are.
But what can the average person do? My point is, except write letters to the editor and do like what we are doing here, is talk on the radio. But what can we do to move a politician's mind? Because if you got around you people who are navel-gazing and, this same set of people you're talking to year in and year out and so on, if your approach to a problem is one fundamental way, then, that's the same result you're going to always be getting. But how can we inject? Because the time it takes for you to becoming a Barack Obama or George Bush, to come up through that political system, most people don't have the stomach for it and don't have an interest in it. But how can we move the society in a direction that's more along the line, say, for instance, of your thinking?
Well, again, I'm just repeating myself that I don't think you're going to get it overnight. And part of why I want to educate people, if I am right that price inflation is coming, is they need to prepare themselves financially so they don't get wiped out when it happens. And then you can worry about rebuilding. And ultimately, you're not going to be voting in people who think like you unless you can convince enough people. I mean, for one thing, I just want to broaden the spectrum. That right now, my type of views are considered sort of off the wall and not serious. If you tune into CNN, you're not going to see someone with my point of view. It's going to be, should stimulus be 1.8 trillion or 1.6 trillion, and that's the debate. So I'm trying to be a little off the wall to sort of just broaden what people are used to, and maybe that'll pave the way for more moderate people.
Doc, tell me something. When people call you off the wall and out to lunch and all of that kind of stuff, does it ever cause you to maybe think again that your philosophy may not really be the correct one?
Well, sure. Occasionally it does, and I've certainly made predictions in the past, some of which have turned out to be wrong. And so, that is humbling, and you always do want to check yourself. And there is, of course, this tendency that if you're going to say something depressing, that if you make it really depressing, then you'll be people will go to you for to have that viewpoint. And so I understand there's a tendency for that. But no, I mean, to me, what I'm saying is common sense, that how can it possibly be the way we fix a period of overconsumption is to borrow and spend money, that we borrow and spend our way out of a period of too much spending? That doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. Or that we know politicians waste money and they're corrupt, and so we're going to trust politicians to reform the banking sector. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. Dr. Robert Murphy is our special guest here on Star 106.5. We're on Jeffrey, and they're going to take this break on 328816345, and they're going to come back and talk about what's happening on Wall Street. Is it really a benchmark of how the economy is doing? And what are some of the good stocks now that Bahamians can't invest in Wall Street, but we certainly can take a look at what some of the good stocks are maybe in our own country where we can make some investments. Taj Mahal. Thank you very much. Final segment here on Star 106. We have Dr. Robert Murphy as our special guest. Happy to have him here. We're talking about a whole host of things, specifically the issues relative to stimulus, what's happening at the United States and how it's affecting countries around the world, and when do you think this is all going to end, and when we're going to get back to being all nice and happy again, and so forth. Doc, a lot of people look at Wall Street, whether the stocks are going up or going down. Did Wall Street have a good day, not have a good day? Seems like they've been having some pretty good sessions over the last couple of weeks, but that may go to that. First of all, what is Wall Street a barometer of?
Well, what it's a barometer of is people's expectations about the profitability of some of the major corporations in the United States. Because what you're buying, with a stock, you're buying ownership in those companies. And so if you think that they're going to be making money down the road, they're going to be able to pay dividends, or their stock price is going to go up. So it's, when the stock prices go up, that means you have a better outlook about the profitability of those particular companies.
Okay.
And so I would just warn people, though. I mean, in 1930, shortly, it's about 6-7 months after the 29 stock market crash, the stocks had recovered, I think, about 50% of that fall from the crash on Black Monday and Black Tuesday. And so at that point in 1930, a lot of people were patting themselves on the back and saying, "Hey, President Hoover had a good idea. He pulled us through this, and now we're on the road to recovery." That was a minor blip because they had the wonderful 1920s prosperity. But obviously, that was just the prelude, and things just kept getting worse. So that's what I think we're in a similar situation now, where people talking about green shoots and all this stuff. I think it's very short-sighted, and that this is going to be the stock market's going to be in trouble for a long time.
So when we see the stock going up past 8,000 and then 9,000 and hit back to 12,000, that's not something we should be glorying in as an indicator of economic performance of the United States economy. That's not what that is.
Well, no. I mean, so strictly speaking, it's not an indicator of economic performance. Generally speaking, if investors think the outlook's good, then stock prices are going to go up. But my point is just that I think we're in an odd situation right now, and that the stock may have gotten much more over or undervalued for a while because things were really awful there. And now they've come back a little bit, but I still think that the people who are thinking the worst is over, that's not true.
Let me come back to some of my earlier questions before. Some persons who are joining us now were not able to hear us. But Doctor, your principal economically philosophical position is that you don't think that this massive government stimulus in the United States of $1 trillion virtually is the wisest move that a government should and could make.
No, I don't, because I think the way the economy reacts to a recession, what happens in a recession is resources and workers have to get shuffled around. They have to go from overexpanded, bloated industries to areas that need them more. And when the government comes in, it sort of vetoes that effort or thwarts it. The government just sort of props up the things that were unsustainable. So it prolongs the pain instead of letting things just adjust.
And you believe that the better response would have been when this thing started to fall apart, the subprime crisis and things affecting the rest of the world and so on, would have been for the government to appear, though they would not have been doing this, but to appear to have done nothing, meaning let the market take care of its of the place. If the companies fail because they made poor decisions or they don't have a good management team or good leadership at that company, then they should fail and not prop them up, and let those persons who are with the creative genius and wisdom and so on pick the pieces up and put together viable entities and run them well. That's what you're saying.
Right, that's what I'm saying, because then it would have been painful in the short term, but then, like you say, you would have had assets and employees under the leadership of people who were more responsible during the boom. And so the people who held back and didn't sell all these exotic mortgages and things like that, they should be on top right now. They should have huge market share, because the other people who were foolish, they should have gone out of business. But that's not what's happened.
Yes.
And so you don't have this process where the people who make the long-term investments that we think they should, people say, how come we don't have more responsible investing? Well, part of the reason is because that doesn't pay in America. Okay. If you make responsible long-term investments, your competitor makes more money than you during the boom, and then he gets bailed out during the bust.
Yeah. And so you're saying that the structural deficiencies of the United States economy is not now being addressed.
Right, that's exactly what I'm saying, that they need to let housing and other sectors shrink, and yet the government's doing everything it can to prop up those sectors.
And what are those structural inefficiencies and deficiencies? Where are the defects in the United States economy that needs immediate and urgent address to be sustained over the years?
Well, I think part of the problem is Americans right now, they spend too much money, that they need to save more, and that the whole approach of American society right now to like financing things with credit cards and the buying houses with no money down. I mean, I think that philosophy needs to change, and it would have changed had the government truly stepped back and just let this thing play out. But that's not happening right now. I mean, households are saving more, but the government's doing what it can to bail out people who got homes that were too big and to prop up credit cards and things like that.
So